Wing. We're live.
Excellent. Okay, hello world. Naiji Temple here again for our weekly hangout, talking about all things Naiji and anything that happens to be interesting to us. We often take the approach of doing casework, detective cases of the human condition, the meaning of existence. And this week, actually, we didn't really have anything going on particularly because we've all been busy working on our various projects to move things forward. I'm working on getting Ambassador Incantation out. Hopefully that'll be done this weekend, so keep at it. I also been doing some purification, so that will be coming out probably tomorrow. Anyway, on other fronts, we were actually just talking about this is funny because I am not actually planning to re-engage Typology Town, but apparently it just happened that one of my the people who are working with the experiment, they suggested, who was it that suggested that sample?
Mike,
yeah.
Okay, so Infinity actually suggested a sample of some vlogger, but they happened actually to be into the typology thing. They thought that they were a Naiji correlate, and they actually are most likely, we believe, to be a Nizai correlate. We're always updating, but our lens is just way ahead of everyone else's. So with that said, that's our current read on her. And then apparently someone who knows her had some pushback on this. And it was just funny because we were talking about, Ben was saying that they were saying fairly typical stuff that we hear. And we're like, this would be kind of fun to like play around with because we're working the Ambassador Incantation. I should hopefully have it done this weekend. That's like our standard package. And then people are going to have their pushback and questions and follow-ups. And so this is a fairly stereotypical one of someone who is, I guess, antagonistic or at least highly skeptical. And we'll take it from there. So I will we'll do introductions, and I guess, Ben, I'll let you introduce the clip.
All right, sounds good.
Cool, right. So that's our Friday. So Friday Temple, Naiji style, that's what we're going to do, just have a little fun, a little buffet. Okay, I am Naiji Coach.
I'm Naiji Mitchell.
I'm Naiji Ben.
Excellent. Okay, so we're taking a time off from the heavier stuff like, statehood versus artists and so forth, and we're going to just have some fun with some miscellaneous stuff that Ben brought up. So have at it, Ben.
All right. So this is a video on YouTube titled "Toddler is Bullshit" by Dominus Crimson. All right.
Is this on what?
YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, are you not seeing it, Coach? Here, wait. Let's start over really quick.
Yeah, I'll start over the video.
We didn't get very far. Like 14 seconds in.
Okay, so the typical thing we hear is that we can easily be dismissed because we're weird. And there's the issue that they never really seem to deal with, which is the data. And no one ever mentions this. It's amazing to me, and a person who's engaged in quite a lot of debating in all kinds of venues over my lifetime, I'm very aware when an opponent is like purposely not mentioning something. So again, I said it before, I'll say it again here. The fact that you would place the Occam's razor, you would place the likelihood of being able to determine human qualia categories by written self-evals versus an actual form of observing. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you actually are just being logical about this, it's most likely that human qualia, if you're going to categorize it empirically, it's going to be something that can be done either external observation, or, which we're doing, or internal, like you somehow find the gene, okay? But, so the fact that we're actually criticized that on the face shows, someone who really doesn't understand, like, evidence grades, or the likelihood of one field of inquiry actually being, productive.
Empirical.
Right, so like after 50 years or so of like the normal typology stuff, they really haven't done anything. So the fact they are not really, well, they are aware, but they just want to say it. They are self-conscious about the fact they have nothing, and they have not really progressed making any ground like a normal science does. Most sciences that are actually working with actual data, even really tacit stuff, after 50 years, if you're actually working with data, and not just, you know, writing books and such, then you're going to have advances. There's been like basically no advances at all in 5 decades. So that's considered weird that we're making that assertion. That actually, because I can see by his attitude here, he's kind of coming like, you know, hardcore practical science person who's like, he knows when he's talking about real stuff and not real stuff. Really? Because you're taking this posture, but you have not actually conducted yourself to do that. So I have to say this.
Yeah. And seriously,
excuse me, real quick here. He's posing. He's a poser. He is. I highlight this. This individual is posing as in this encounter that because we have weird words or whatever, or bold assertions, that the way we're going about it is less practical or scientific in approach, when actually he's basically making an argument back on us that we don't have anything. So generally, if you're going to prove that point, you would then say what in the data you've looked at and have seen or not seen. They never engage the data that way. So you're saying, Mitchell?
I just want to mention one thing before we go on about this. Actually, well, I guess 2 things. One is I believe he self-identifies as ENTJ or a Xeni correlate.
Okay, well,
So-
first of all, I'm still narrowing this dude down, but I believe he's going to be a Naiji, maybe on the outside of Xine.
Yeah, I see where you're going with
Yeah,
that.
I definitely see where you're going with that.
But
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything that's telling me that this is an objective.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also one more thing, really quick, is all I have for now. It's just that really related to this posing point that you're making. Typology, while maybe it has more recognition than we do, it's in the scientific community. It's largely viewed the way he's acting like we are.
Exactly.
It's largely viewed as like Scientology. No, like serious academic psychologist really takes this very seriously. It's not. I mean,
Yeah,
it's largely
nobody,
ridiculed.
yeah, you're right. Nobody takes
in
them
academia.
that seriously, really. I
So
mean,
that's
they
not-
actually knows what they're talking about. I mean,
The most serious it is used for is basically a cloaked filtering system in like major companies. Like
Exactly.
they
Yeah.
basically using it to figure out if you're going to like say kind of like red flag stuff that they want to know about. So it's like a, you know, a typology quality thing, but really it's just to vet an employee.
Yeah. That's true. And I've heard they use socionics like that in Russia as well.
Right.
The MBTI.
So it's not really like science, more as it is a way to get you to have a reason, a pretext to answer lots and lots of questions about how you are, and they can kind of like have some red flags, and if you touch those, then
yeah.
Step out of line, please.
Yes. All right. That's all I have.
Continue on. Okay.
Ridiculous names.
Ridiculous name.
Ridiculous names.
Okay, I had to bring this up again. First of all, who says what's ridiculous? And second, how does that relate to whether or not you can do something? Because let's say someone wears, you know,
You could call the electron the pizza particle, and it would still be, and
Right.
you know, it would still have all those properties, you know. So it's,
exactly. So whatever you call it, you can call it. I mean, so like the quark, that's kind of a funny sounding word. I
And
mean,
there's charm quarks and strange quarks and up quarks and down
exactly.
quarks.
That
So-
sounds like something out of Star Trek, but that doesn't change the fact that, first of all, it's a real thing, and second, whoever discovers, can point out the actual new phenomenon, they get to name it. So, one, that weird words somehow change whether or not it's true or not, and second, that the person who found it, can they name it after their grandma? Yes. Can they name it after a cartoon character they love? The name of their puppy? They can name it after whatever they want. They're just, the fact that someone is disputing that shows that they don't understand how discovery works. It's either true or it's not. That's first. And then second, whoever discovers it, they get to name it. Listen, everyone, whatever I want.
yeah.
I get to. This is ego. Do you not know how discovery works? The power and ego that goes with it. I actually saw it. I get to name it because I'm the one pointing it out to everyone. That's just how it works. If you don't understand that, this is key. This person's acting like we're whiffy. I'm telling you right now, this individual has never been the man of life. No, because you don't know how power works. He's actually dismissing that because he's actually overlooking, because he can't handle it, the given, which is it's actually true. He's just going to walk right past that and start addressing things like the true thing has a funny name. The true thing, I've never heard of it before. The true thing, my friends won't like it. That true thing, they're going to laugh at you in the news. Who fucking cares? None of that means anything because it's the true thing. So
you can think progress is crazy all you want. It's still progress, right?
Exactly. He's attacking us for actually what he's doing. We're actually doing real work, giving it funny names. He's actually not doing real work.
Yeah.
But being very meticulous in his mind about how he's conducting himself. No. All right, moving along.
That's the first thing he mentioned. Like, that's like the first thing that he really needs to get. That, oh, with weird words.
Exactly.
That's your strongest point that you're leading with?
Very good point. That's your strongest point, is the weirdness. Okay, it should be whether the data's there or not. And first of all, to do that, you had to have checked it out, which he didn't. And his energy here is, this looks to me like Xi, a subjective Xi user, and he's like upset. We have actually committed a foul. His posture is, we have committed a foul. No, we haven't. Do you know what I mean? So he's actually attacking something that's not there. But that's on his code of conduct for how he's canvassed.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I will give him credit for this, though. It's misguided, but I believe he is trying to defend his friend for what he believes to be an unhealthy influence. However, and here's where he's got to really hero up. In this equation, no, sir, you are the one who's introducing the incorrect influence into the environment.
Yeah.
He's actually being given the most up-to-date truth on human quality, in particular hers, and you actually are like saying, don't look at that, don't look at that, that'll mess you up. No, her thinking that she's actually something she's not. She's already messed up. We're trying to fix that, and you're getting in the way. That's the actual math. I believe he actually is confused, so he's trying to be heroic, but that's the actual equation right here. What do you guys, you want to put in?
I mean, like, he spends this entire video, like, trying to describe how we're bullshit, but the reasons he's giving is nothing but irrelevant bullshit in the process. So it's like, everything that he's like, trying to work towards in this video is really just what his video is. It's crap. I mean, it's completely irrelevant and does not apply to us.
No, but like I said, I'm intrigued what his Xi thinks his role is here, because as an IG, this is a good case to thing here, because he's basically saying words, but there's another ritual he's actually doing. If you watch his posturing, which is critical to reading Mojo, you can actually see what the ritual really is. Because this is actually supposed to be a ritual of admonishment, but I think it's actually more of a ritual of insecurity and like fear biting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. All right, should we continue on then?
Mitchell, do you have anything more?
Nothing else. That we can go ahead.
Keep on.
No, we haven't.
No, we haven't. He just said that we have done the same thing that they've done in Jungian and other kinds of fields, but changed the labels. No. Okay, and the fact that he missed this point shows that he's really been quite careless here. I'll bring it up again. The subjective-objective dichotomy is not the first one. It does not determine momentum modulation, energy gaining, energy curving. That is determined by directive adaptive. So it's a fundamentally different way of looking at the psychological universe. One way makes, like, the force is introverted and extroverted. We call subjective objective. They're saying that's actually based on the binary push and pull, the yin yang. You know what I mean? That's the momentum modulation when it's not. So we are actually we're breaking from the fundamental premise of the model. You guys know I normally quite can flow with the speaking. I I don't know how much more simple to make it because everyone keeps missing this same point. How can a model that is saying the central premise of this other model is incorrect, how can it be the same model with different labels? Seriously.
And we're saying it's wrong.
Someone addressed that.
That doesn't make any sense. If we are bullshit and we are doing that, then you're also bullshit. So it doesn't add up. If he's trying to say our model is better, but your model is the same, no, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So how? Okay. This is something maybe Mitchell, you might be able to help out because you probably I think cross-reference different maybe models in your math and philosophy. Do you know how many philosophical or mathematical thinkers have actually been working on similar stretches of natural law? That shit happens all the time.
Yeah, and seriously, even Jung. So let's take Jung for example. The 4 cognitive functions; those correlate to Galen's 4 temperaments. Did they just copy Galen's 4 temperaments? And
right, exactly.
No, they really didn't. Actually, it's similar. You can correlate it, but they're not really the same thing. Jung was dealing with it in a different way. Still wrong, but different way than Galen was. And now we're dealing with similar mathematical principles in a way, although ordered differently. But we're basing it on something empirical, and the whole foundation is completely different from what they're working with.
Because the 2 elements when you're working on a case is basically what is the case being worked on? What is the truth of it? And then how well have the various detectives gotten that provable by their forensic evidence? That's basically what you have. So otherwise, I mean, really, Jung's work crosses over with like Plato's work and so many others that before then. I mean, it's a question of, do humans come born a certain way, and can you group them? Do you know how old that art is? Every king ever.
And actually, I'm not sure Jung said the born thing too, because Jung believed that one kind of individuated into their type to some extent, that they kind of specialized into it. Very different from us.
Exactly. So
you're born. You're born with your mojo.
You're born with your mojo. It just develops. It does not change. And then also the momentum modulation dichotomy comes from directive adaptive. Anything else is a wrong answer, which is the foundation of like psychological type, introversion, extroversion. So I'm telling you, the foundation of that model is wrong. So how can my model be the same when I'm saying you fucked up from square one? Yeah, my model specifically says your model fucked up the very first step it took. It's dead in the water. So
and no data.
Yeah. So that's the next part. So that's like Plato. Plato had the same thing. You know, the Platonic forms, and you have like the humorism and so forth. Those things are all trying to guess. None of them own the phenomenon. The reason why it's called a mojo phenomenon, when I named it that, is because I got the answers right to a degree. And I can prove that by the data and repeatable experiments. That's how the whole process works. Nothing else really actually is relevant. I'm curious. They seem very concerned with the propriety, not as concerned with methodology and application. For example, the fact that we're doing something different by using visual reading methods, you should have a curiosity, hunger to figure out, is there something there? The fact that there's not really curiosity there does not say much for a person as a truth seeker. And then, as far as application, how do these people actually think this is going to be proven? There'll have to be an experiment. To this date, they still don't actually have any experiments. This is key. They've collected statistical data of what different demographics around the world will answer things. But that's not an experiment. That's not a cohesion of accuracy experiment. For example, if you're using the methodology of a psychiatrist, they're the ones that will interview the patient and they will make an assessment. Mm-hmm. Okay, how come there's never been a test where people from all over the world who are practicing this method of doing it They actually get patients, make their assessments of them using, their classic, lay in the couch, let me ask you questions crap. And then from that, they're like, oh, I think you're an INTP. And then use this method, this Jungian, session method, that practitioners from around the world interviews the same person, but in a blind test conditions. They get the same answers, at least at a higher than, but they've never even attempted to do that, or if they have, it's failed. If
they have failed.
I'm guessing it has failed.
They typed coaches as INTJ and ENFJ and all these experts.
All of these sites say different things. I mean, it's like they don't have a cohesion of opinion at all. That you need to actually have, to actually support your data.
Exactly. They've never even had a drive. Like, we need to get that. You know what I mean? That's what brought Demas over. He was like, why aren't you trying to make this empirical? It seems like your whole trajectory is just to make various camps that have really good sounding explanations, and you argue, like, you know what I mean, like an opinion argument.
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing that, that's just a larger and larger pile of sophistry crap that no real scientist is ever going to go crap about. It doesn't mean anything.
Like, I think the very fact that you see on typology forums, they're still arguing about, like, whether you're born with a type or whether it changes or not. That in itself shows that they have no idea what they're talking about. They're just...
They don't know for sure that you're born with it and it stays. They don't know about the same-sex family member relationship, as far as, like, that's almost like 100%. And then the inspirational pairings. One, that's the best thing to have, but on the trends, that despite people thinking they're totally different, they tend to end up with inspirationals more often than not, even when they're unhealthy.
And they have their math wrong on that too. They think it's like, often, like especially in socionics, they think it's your opposite type inspirational. So Niji and V-Xi correlates are inspirational, and it could not be farther.
For sure.
It's as wrong as possible.
All right, let's let him flow. At this point, I'm leaning more towards Niji as he was in the beginning, but I'm letting it kind of wash over me because he's very upset. So I'm definitely feeling some heat from his G here. But I believe this anger seems to be a bit more natural to him. I'm kind of getting like he might be, an I alpha. But I've not closed out the reading yet because obviously this is very laden because he is upset and he's upset with us, the people who are reading him. So I had to kind of let that wash over.
It adds kind of a difficulty modifier.
It does add a difficulty modifier, but I think he's definitely probably one of those two. And we'll finish it off here.
All right.
I mean, we just explained all this unique stuff.
Yeah,
we have these other marks.
As far as unique, again, I'm going to have to ask this person because
we're way more unique than you are.
His Xi has to explain the logic. Like, how is this not unique? Almost every typology model out there is based on introversion, extroversion. Our model fundamentally breaks from that. How is that not unique? Okay, most of them use self-evaluation questionnaires or shrinks. We actually use visual reading. That's very unusual at the least. Statistically speaking, you have to acknowledge that is a unusual form of going about the quality of categorization question as compared to the other ones who are doing it. Seriously, that's just numbers. Like, that's math. There's lots of them, and they're going with introversion, extroversion, and self-evals. We're going with directive, adaptive, and visual reading. How many people are doing that? Of the people who are actively trying to categorize human qualia, you know what I mean? Roughly, it's easily got to be 9 to 1. Minimum. 9 to 1.
That's generous right there.
Yes.
That's generous.
So I would say unique, unusual. We are less than 10% as far as methodology. So right there, that's a logical error, because there's no way that our method currently right now and the foundation of the model, which is adaptive direct dichotomy, that's actually, very few are actually approaching it in that way.
I also question, like, how can we
together? Yeah, very few. What's that?
I also question, like, how can we be weird but not unique? You know, I mean, just
I
in
thought
general.
that about that too.
Well, I'll give him credit there. He's actually saying that our weirdness is our attempt to cover up the fact that we're not unique. But no, I developed new terms because it's different. Because Naiji doesn't mean INFJ. Because INFJ is some made-up creature that meets that description, where introversion, extroversion comes first. Mine, directive adaptive, is the main dichotomy, and it's based on this list of over 1,000 males and females. So it's a completely different way of coming at the case, and I got a completely different answer. Directive adaptive, not subjective objective.
And we have these cues that are in no other model. You have to at least acknowledge that. Even if you think they're wrong, you have to acknowledge at least that we have all these cues that these other models aren't using. That's unique.
Yep.
That's very unique, yes.
Continue on. Okay, so here the classic. He's going off on how I have, my spirit friends that I talk to. I actually have a very sensitive nature that I have to account for. To dealing with mood swings and things of that nature. I hear voices, yada yada. This is all true. Again, I'm going to have to bring up Daniel Tammet. I'm going to have to bring up John Nash. Now, this discovery, if it's true, which it is, it easily ranks in the top all-time human breakthroughs ever. 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 With that said, has this individual ever studied the lives of people who have discovered those kinds of breakthroughs? They're not normal people, you dumb motherfucker. If you think that, you will always be weak. Because
Young, very strange.
Looks like. Exactly. Yeah. Young, by your definition right now, he talked to his imaginary friends and so forth, and you're like, that. So why is that not stupid? Okay.
He was like in visions and stuff like that.
So so two things there. Thank you, Mitchell. One, apply your standard all the way around. And second, your standard's stupid because it doesn't actually account for the top of the food chain, which is what we're talking about. If whoever discovers how to correctly categorize human qualia, that's the biggest breakthrough ever for any philosopher or person like that, or psychologist, anyone working those kinds of areas. It's the biggest thing ever. So why hasn't it been done before? Same reason why no one came with the game theory John Nash came until he did, because he was a unique kind of freaky fucking genius. It took a unique, freaky fucking genius to do it, dummy.
Yes.
Just like Einstein, they thought that he was a weirdo because he spent so much time just sitting on the couch staring at a wall, not doing science like real scientists did. Oh yeah, he got E equals MC squared, and all you other dumb motherfuckers didn't.
Einstein was a lazy dog.
Exactly, he's a lazy dog. So I mean,
they were lazy compared to him. They're talking about who's lazy.
So they don't know what work is, and they don't actually know what actual data as a result of that work is. So how would you be the one to define that? Anyway, this person should just go look up mega breakthroughs in human history. Generally, the person that does that, their genius is operating at a level that is difficult for people to get at first. Second, that genius makes their life very uncomfortable. It's almost standard, not unusual. This is key. When we're talking about unusual levels of unprecedented discovery, it is not unusual for that person to be unusual. See if you can track all that. I'm going to go too quick for this guy. That's how it works. So up here, when you're actually trying to break through, it's not a question of are you weird, it's can it be done at all. And any human that is pushing the boundaries of can you do that at all, they're not going to be operating like other people are. Third element, as a course of that, is stressed. Yes, I'm very stressed. I have symptoms of being very stressed. Do you know how stressed Darwin was? Seriously, he was a very stressed dude. You know how stressed Einstein was? These are all very stressed individuals. It doesn't change the fact they got the answers right. So anyone, I'm trying to say people who would be taken in by this kind of spell, anyone who actually would be influenced by this argument, know that you're being fooled. You're being hoodwinked by persons actually trying to scare you by appeals to, what is that? Familiarity?
Normalness.
Yeah, normalcy. I guess appeal to normalcy. Okay, We're talking about whether or not an apex feat has been accomplished, and you're actually getting on me on that point, on familiarity or normalcy.
And there's just so many geniuses like that. Even more. There's like Jacob Barnett, Grigori Perelman. They tend to do weird things that people can't understand.
Yeah.
You don't really learn if you just run away from the unfamiliar at every time you come into contact with it. I mean.
Okay, so do I have mental issues? Yes, but don't we all to a degree? Now the question is it pathological, and are you functioning? So I do have a lot of issues. I've not said that's not true. However, going back to this thing about certain geniuses, it's not uncommon to actually have certain social anxieties. It's actually very common for geniuses of my caliber. Actually, I'm just be honest. As sensitive as I am to be able to pull out the Rosetta Stone like I am unusually articulate. Most Naiji who are like me are so fucking sensitive they can't get out of the fucking corner. They will not look you in the eyes. They cannot stop from stuttering. I use techniques.
They want to dress their critics like this.
Yeah, exactly. So my ability to function is that, for my unusual level sensitivity for an IG, I'm actually functioning at a very high level. So if this person would want to discuss any topic in the world, I have never had anyone discuss topics with me and not think I'm a highly intelligent individual who understands how things work. Now, when I talk about controversial stuff, you're like, you don't like it. Okay, I can talk about things without using weird words, and then I'll just sound like a really smart guy talking about Christianity or Jung or whatever crap you want to talk about. However, to answer this thing we're talking about now, I have to use these terms. Otherwise, we can't get to the next part of the equation. That's just how it works. But yeah, it is interesting. I'm still wondering. I've not seen his cheeks move much. I've not seen his cheeks. So
Interesting.
at this point, he's getting a lot of Ji heat here, but he's also very kind of withheld with his Zai. So I'm thinking it's Zai'd up Nai Ji, or I'm still putting Zai Ni in there. Okay, so my position is that I'm not allowed to tell the people about things I can see. It's actually the other way around. Those who know me and have been following me for some time know that I actually find it very uncomfortable to share. But it's because my spirits say it would be unconscionable to not do it. It needs to be put out there so people actually can see the data and start investigating on their own, and the wheels can start turning on that in a more public manner. So if you have data that people need to know, it would be a more incorrect code of conduct to allow the fact that I know that I have some issues, a lot of eccentricity and so forth, so I have, insecurities about that. You know what I mean? I would prefer to not have to deal with it. So the less I go on camera, the less I put things out publicly, I wouldn't have to deal with that as much. However, I would be failing to service the greater good of humanity. They need to know this data. That's like if you have a drinking problem and you're Charles Darwin, does that mean you don't show people fossils? And that's going to directly relate to their morality if they are coming from, say, a Christian background. It's going to bring all kinds of high level, how does a human condition work, where do we come from, who made us, why, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's going to come up. Let's just say that he actually has any number of human failings. Does that mean that he should not have put forward the fossils? No. It would be compounding whatever human failings he did have. Maybe he has infidelities. Maybe he drinks too much. All kind of whatever it is.
Yeah, it'd just be like another failing to that list. I mean, it's
exactly. So besides being an alcoholic, you also didn't put forward the greatest discovery humans had had up to that point. Extra fail. Okay, yeah. So his entire logic there makes no sense at all. Two negatives don't make a positive.
Yes. You don't sound skeptical at all.
Yeah, he's got a lot of Xi, heavy in the voice. He seemed peeved with a G, but I don't know. He might be a Xi.
That's interesting, because he
What's
all
that?
assessed as a Xeni.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Cyberbullying is what we've experienced. We're actually over here mainly just getting our experiments on, collecting our data, doing our own thing. We have, upon occasion, done PSAs, including at Typology Town. We tell them what their mojos are. And they can do with that what they want. We just lay the case out. And then I haven't talked to them in like years now. And I don't really give a shit until it's next time I talk to them. And I will. I'll do PSAs again in a few years when it's right. It's time the data says, oh, it's time to work on their bubble some more now. But, yeah, they come over to us acting all trolly, and then, you know, Demas, Mitchell, Ben dismantle them, and then they go away, and they come back and they go away, and they come back and go away. We are not pursuing them. I don't care what they do over there. Okay, Typology Town, all you are is an opportunity to show the strength of our methodology. I don't care about any of your people as far as them coming over, or your people as far as the data you're collecting as being competitors to me. I've already seen it. I challenge you to a duel of data. You sucked. You got nothing. I don't care what you do now. Even if you were to start trying to chase me now, you're so fucking far behind. I put out thousands of samples I've been purifying for a while now. It's all on camera. I've been doing experiments with my team for months now. So you're done. So I don't have any concern whatsoever what you're doing on the other hand. And then as far as like your people, no, kind of like this guy, most of them are deluded. They're deluded by that reading descriptions of like the lady thought she was a Naiji, but she's not. So she apparently read the description of ENTP and said, that's not me. Well, it doesn't matter what you think you are. You are what you are based on your physiological cues. So again, I don't really care what they're doing because they don't have experiments that are going anywhere for empirical data, and their people generally are the most difficult to get through to, because they somehow keep missing directive adaptive as the main dichotomy. Fundamentally is like this, with introversion, extroversion being the main dichotomy. These two models cannot exist in the same understanding. Anyone who doesn't understand that is just stupid. All right.
And cyberbullying is ridiculous. I mean, how many hate videos do they have on us?
Oh,
How many hate videos do you see us making about Typology? We have one video dismantling, purely factual dismantling of their methodology. We don't go around writing, you know, oh, this typology number's weird.
I don't care what they're doing. I really don't. And so, like I said, they've actually hacked our stuff before, tried to get it kicked off YouTube. And I'm like, I don't care anybody. They banned us from forums. So if we're like, okay,
slander.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less. All it is, just this is key. It's a public opportunity to show what we can do. So that they are already providing the service I need from them. What I need them to do is to say my work is stupid, this methodology doesn't work, and to continue to say that how they're doing it is the strongest way. Because then, when this gets proven on a larger scale, there's going to be lots of people jumping in. None of them are going to really have an opportunity to really have a stake in it because they weren't tracking qualia like this. But typologists were tracking qualia. So people who don't know are actually going to be, because typologists apparently can't actually tell the difference between directive adaptive foundation of a model versus introversion extroversion foundation of a model. Two completely different things. So most people coming in from the outside will probably also be confused. And so we actually have to make sure they know. And the easiest way to do that is to actually have this, you know, contestation in the marketplace. It's useful. It's not comfortable. I don't enjoy it. I have a lot of social anxiety in general, and you know, contestation just ratchets that up. But it has to be done, and so my spirit's saying to do it, so I do. And on that, as far as being functioning, besides my intellect, I actually push past fear barriers that would crush most people. I deal with panic attacks every day, and I push through them. I find techniques, I will myself, I focus myself, and I get it done. So this individual here, just being honest, this guy, nothing he said so far has actually shown a command of logic or the English language that makes my intellect in any way impressed, concerned, whatever. And then also, his energy. He seems a little rattled by this. Like, this is a big deal to have a video-to-video interaction like this. Okay, this is not an energetic highlight. I'm trained to actually go out in the field and have live encounters with people on the street and talk to them about every kinds of thing related to their belief systems. So I have to say this. Before someone actually tells another person what they need to work on, they'd ask themselves how they stack up. Intellectually, this person, I mean, Mitchell knows some kind of work he does with math and philosophy. He's basically just failed some fairly basic, how you make arguments. And anyone who actually didn't catch that, you're stupid too. Sorry, it's just true. The way this person made arguments, they actually did not connect logically. There was a lot of like semantical errors and logical flow errors that I think partially he's just too ignorant to realize he made that mess up. But the other half, I think he does know that he's kind of like free-flowing here a bit based on he's probably just going to get a lot of automatic head nods in typology.
Oh yeah, they're weird.
Yeah.
And, but all of us weirdos here can see all of the logical errors he's making. So
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm curious. Here also, he's kind of making a bit of a grimacy expression, but the cheeks aren't moving a whole lot. Okay, immaturity. Things that you actually need to do to be mature are to challenge yourself to grow.
Yes.
So he referenced the guy, NF Geeks Mike. I've read him as an IG. He believes himself to be a Niji correlate, and I will revisit that case. And if I need to purify, I will. So on that, I've yet to see them show that same kind of ability to relook at their data. Whereas I have actually repeatedly gone public and actually corrected my work, even where it's awkward and uncomfortable. I explain why I made the error. I do so publicly, and I leave that out there for public consumption. That is a feat of a true seeker that I've not seen any of them really operating at. They don't actually operate at the level of spiritual attentiveness, intellectual ethics. They just aren't operating at that level. I've been accused of many things in my life, but that's one. No, I've been accused of actually just being stubborn about it. But no, I go with the highest principles I believe to be true, and I move forward from there. And I've always been very successful in that regard. So this person seems to be unaware of how this process works. So one, that's an error in just how it works, and it's also an error in me. This is what someone who actually is used to winning looks like. I'm under a lot of stress, but I'm used to getting my way on things. Intellectually and spiritually, I look at it, eventually I can solve problems. I've always scored well on tests and those kinds of things. I can move people my arguments. That's not a problem for me. So this attempt to attack me in that regard is just silly, because I've talked to people with lots of credentials in my life, and they generally are frightened by my intellect. They find me uncomfortable to be around this regard. So the fact that that's not being addressed is just silly. There's a lot of things that just, if you want to address them, I don't listen to people like that, because they're no good, even from friends. I like people to tell me real stuff, even if it's uncomfortable. They try to give me, one thing I really appreciate about my the Niji Dragon Fleet here, we talk in a very earnest manner. We talk for real.
Mm-hmm.
And because we actually want to get to the bottom of things, there's a heightened way of conducting oneself that goes with that. And I've yet to see any of them comporting themselves in this manner. All I've seen is them actually saying that's weird. They must not know what it's like to be elite at anything, because that's how people who are elite and people who are in a struggle, they seem to actually not understand how. Actually, three things: elite, in a struggle, and a creative process. an intuitive process, a pattern recognition process. They seem to somehow think that should be academic. No, it is what it is. Creative processes, they are what they are. And that's how they get answers no one else can get. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm curious because the way he's positioning himself here, he's kind of posturing like we've done wrong. But there's a lot of errors that he's clearly made, and Typology Town makes on a regular basis. Like the kind of effort they'll do, their willingness to go on camera. There's a lot of like basic things that the fact that they won't do that should shake them.
I couldn't watch a video.
Yeah. I mean, like,
and that's mature.
Why not? And then even if you're bored, okay, fine. But themselves to get on camera and respond back, or to
yeah. Like if you're not interested, that's fine. But responding as if you understand what we have when you don't is just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. We're not being ridiculous here. Actually, going out and finding the data is perfectly what you guys should have already been doing. So we're actually just doing what you should have been doing to begin with.
Sure. That's another too, is like collecting the data. Like Dario Nardi, like his work, the amount of samples he used, the amount of scant connection between the data and the case he was making. I'm like, how does that not bother you? Do you mean like if you want to be for real, you need to attack this case. You have not made any ground in 50 years. You're going to have to be more aggressive. So, you know what I mean? Like, have you guys ever walked? I know, Ben, you've done debate, and Mitchell, you've done tennis. When you walk into a place that's meant for that activity, there's an energy. And if you're not up for it, you don't tell that place to stop being like a tennis stadium or a debating arena. You get out. You don't belong here. So we're talking about upper-level scientific spirituality case solving, and you're like criticizing intensity and shit. It's like, oh my goodness. You're in the wrong place. So he's actually, basically, this whole attack is saying we're the wrong people going about it the wrong way in the wrong place. No, you are. All those things actually apply to what you're doing. And the arguments you're making are just kind of things to get the crowd riled up in your favor.
Yes, absolutely. That was my impression too. I mean, it just sounded like he was just rehashing like all of the arguments, all of the main arguments that stood out to him that we've been hit with over the years. I mean, that's
using crease line on the cheeks. You see it?
Yeah.
We're not rewriting it. We're actually telling where it's wrong.
Yeah. I think he's gullible for falling for what they're saying, actually.
And what does he think he is again?
ENTJ.
Okay, he is so not. In fact,
no.
No, right now, I'm starting to move more over to Zine here.
He's an assertive Zine.
He might be an assertive Zine going off. Okay. He basically came at me with the credentials question. And this person clearly doesn't understand how unprecedented discoveries get made. To do that, you need to craft a lens to look at molecules or whatever that's better than other people. Now, if you went to an engineering school that trained you to do that, great. If you didn't, great. It doesn't matter. What matters is in your backyard, sponsored by you and your loved ones, or sponsored by your school, sponsored by the government. It doesn't matter how it got sponsored. In your backyard, you've got a telescope or a microscope that can see things other people can't see. You're top of the food chain. You beat Harvard, you beat everyone. On that subject, you're the only one who can see at that level. This is called a feat. And there are equipment that are often related to having feats. So that's what actually separates how these things work, because he actually mentioned one thing in there that actually counts. Everything else said was stupid. which is what are your degrees, your credentials, your background, blah,
I
blah.
have data. Where's your credibility?
He said one thing, what's your training? Now we're talking. My contention is that human qualia can be observed. So in order to do that, you have to spend time observing them and then make various training devices to help other people do that. Okay, that would be the only thing that would count. It's like studying sort of, I don't know, certain kind of South African bees. It doesn't matter if you have a biology degree or you don't. If you come from an area that allowed you, through your life experiences, to actually know about those bees, you now currently have more of those bees living healthily in your backyard than anywhere else on the planet, then you're that bee expert. Okay, when you're talking about unprecedented and or singular apex abilities, no school can credential you for that. Anyone who thinks like that is stupid. You cannot credential someone to be the greatest, like they can memorize more than anyone else can memorize, or they can dance better than anyone else can do, or they can, like Daniel Tammet, they can actually learn a language in a certain amount of time, or they can anything. They can stack Legos higher than any human can. There's not a degree for that. To actually try to equate doing that with degrees is stupid. Degrees won't make that. Only feats can do that, and either prove you can do it or you can't. And that gets back to the training. This is why I laugh at people like this. If you get on the mat with someone and they start asking you, where did you get your black belt? Do you know the Shanshu style? I got mine from, who gives a flying fuck? We're about to go on this mat and roll around, and your body and my body are going to meet in the way natural law allows them to meet, and one of us will be supreme at the end. It doesn't matter what degrees you have. It actually matters who can dominate this other person in this feat. I'm going to dominate all of you because of what he just said. We're basically having a fight right now on who knows the correct human design, human qualia, and can prove it with data. That's the fight. And the fact that you're actually talking as if you can somehow bring out your Kung Fu legacy and how there's like a 5,000-year tradition leading up to the place you train at, and somehow that makes you what? Some guy who goes to a school that's been around for 5,000 years. That doesn't matter. We're going to get on the mat, and 2 advanced primates are going to have at it, and one's going to win. And if you don't know that, then I suggest you read Miyamoto Musashi's Book of 5 Rings, because you do not want to get on any mat anywhere. You don't want to get in a tennis ring. You don't want to actually get in a debating place. You don't actually.
I don't care what tennis school you trained at. If you can't beat me in a match,
who cares? How fast is your serve? That's what you should be asking me. How fast is my serve? Who can I beat? If you're not asking questions like that, you don't know how the game works. So I will actually educate this person. Here's what you should be asking. There is the human qualia. If this person is a typologist, they do acknowledge that much. There is categories of human qualia. So now we need to try to find out what exactly is it that makes it like it is, and how do you track it? Okay. You clearly aren't tracking it because you don't know how it's working. And that's because you put subjective objective as the main dichotomy. That automatically means you're wrong. History is going to say you were wrong. It doesn't matter that you actually had 16 designs, which was actually better than most people were working with, but you got the math wrong. Close does not matter in this case. You got it wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like if you actually take charts that are like more advanced than other people, but they still actually going in the wrong direction, it's just more advanced wrong. You didn't actually get the answer right. So how do you prove this? Okay, let's talk about how like Einstein's relativity was proven. In the night sky, a phenomenon happened that people were able to track. They had telescopes that allowed to track that. This is basically where all the scientists said one person was wrong, and that person basically beat all their asses. This happened. Look it up in history. This happened. It's not the only time it's happened. Happens a lot. Niji do it a lot. Okay, so when this happens, it's nigh to V. You have a vision, and you got to prove it. Some kind of feats have to happen. The night sky has to go the way you predict it's going to happen to prove your equations are correct. Okay. Your model does not have, Idemus just gets them all the time about this, you have no falsifiability. There is no lens that over 50 years went from 10,000 resolution to 50,000 resolution to 100,000 resolution. Real science always does this. It's a crude blood test to a more advanced blood test to a very complex blood test. You've just changed languages. More books of more sophistry. That's not how these things work. Real discoveries, you're going to have slides, motherfucker. You've got to have slides, and you have to have experiments other people can do. They can repeat what you're doing. So I'm the only one who's actually operating that way. Podlair operates by these standards because that's how science works. Names don't matter. Methodology matters. So the race is who can actually get together a list of accurately read people that other people can study from and then be able to get cohesion of opinion answers. If you don't know this, you are dumb as shit. Anyone who could have done that would have done that because, use tennis on you, that is a spike kill. Plato knew this. Okay? If Alexander the Great could have actually arranged it, any of his viziers, it would have made their careers. Anyone who could do that, they would have done it. And you should want to do it because it would prove empirically what it is, and all the other sciences would have to start tracking on you. Okay, that has to happen. How is that going to get here? There'll have to be something that can be observed with cohesion of opinion that can then bring other people in so more and more experiments can be done. That basic platform of stacking, scientific stacking, does not exist in your model. It doesn't. And if you don't know that, you're just stupid. You've been drinking the Kool-Aid. Okay, so you're not really doing real science. To move to real science, you'll have to observe it. I'll give Dario Nardi his credit. He's wrong. But actually trying to get some kind of, he's using like, was it EEG?
Yes, EEG.
Okay, so he's wrong because his answers don't bear out to be true. Our methodology is much more advanced and can show that his is actually incorrect. But I will give him this credit to separate that from what this dumb fucker is saying. That actually is an attempt to go with physiological cues. If you use blood, you know what I mean, hair strands, any kind of tests like that to get it, you're still missing out on the personal development of actually being able to read a person yourself. But that would be trying to take it into the realm of science. If you could track the gene in something, you know what I mean, then you'd be somewhere. But otherwise, it's never been anywhere. And I've noticed that they actually seem to get upset when they're challenged on this point. I don't know why. They should want it. Because then they'd be real. I feel sorry for them because I think a lot of them are seekers. But at the same time, I think seekers like to seek to a degree, but they also feel a bit safe within certain confines. And if the story sounds good enough, then they're okay.
Honestly, that, like, just thinking back to when I was in Typology Town, that was boring as fuck. Like just not actually achieving any, like, known ground of, like, what I was really talking about. I mean, that's just, like, it's boring.
You're
like,
making no progress at all.
You should want to be expanding. I mean, that's
just stagnation. Sure. Nothing but.
Yeah.
I always thought that, for example, like in various martial arts, people who like will train, but they don't like to ever really get on the mat. And I always thought, don't you want to know? Do you mean? I mean, because I know like
even if you lose, you want to know what it's like to lose.
Yeah, because then I'm really actually, when I actually am successful, then I've made some real ground. If I'm just talking about the event, but I'm not really actually getting on the mat and engaging, I don't know. It's like a false sense of safety. I've seen people do that. They have that, and then they actually get in a real fight, or they get on the mat or something, and they get crushed. I'm like, I feel bad for them. At the same time, I feel like saying, like, why did you allow yourself to believe that you had a strength and position you don't have? It sets you up for this. First of all, in typology, right now, anyone who's in typology, I'll talk to you right here. You have to ask yourself as a truth seeker, put me out of the equation for right now. That model is weak. All the typology models, you have to accept this. It's a fact. If you compare it to various sciences, There's lots of sciences out there, and they're not equal as far as how long they've been a trajectory and how fast they're trending. Okay, typology is way behind in evidence and repeatable experiments as compared to pretty much every other science. And it stayed there for the last 5 decades. So it's been behind and it's not moved for all this time. That is a fact. So anyone who is talking from the position of like, how dare you attack this strong position and mess people's minds up, confuse them about how strong this is. Okay, you're full of shit out of the gate. Ignore Podler, ignore any of that stuff. Typology is a weak model.
Really? Go look it up. I mean, it's just everywhere.
So that's a fact. So you cannot come from a position of like, I'm attacking something unassailable. It's very attackable because it's weak. It doesn't have evidence. It doesn't have repeatable experiments. You need those. We're bringing those. So I'm curious why they don't mention our. How come they don't mention our weekly experiments? When we talk about what we do, we quickly say that everything you hear and talk about means nothing if you can't see real samples and get cohesion of opinion. So the number of samples we have, they don't address that. And they don't address the cohesion of opinion in our weekly experiments, which have been going on for quite some time. Why not? Even if you were to dismantle it, why not dismantle it? Because it's our main point.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you want to dismantle me, all this crap you're saying means absolutely nothing to me. Say something about what actually I'm leading with, because what I care about is that I have the data. When I have
the only way they can really seem like they're actually making a case is to just ignore our main point.
But the actuality's the reverse. The only case you can make is whether or not the data is actually there.
Yeah.
Whether or not our repeatable experiments actually mean something. You have to address these things. And you have to address that whatever your opinion of our current data and our repeatable experiments are, you're doing nothing. There's like nothing. There's a dearth of anything of that sort over in Typology Town. So I'm curious what it is, for example, like his rant here, why this would move me at all. I'm sorry, but I have to say it. This makes me feel extremely confident. Like this person, I've been going at it. I've been doing purifications. I've been dealing with panic attacks, heavy shit. My people know. So if I was going to be stopped by something, it would be related to that. And I'll tell you, as an opponent of mine, if you want to shake me, I'll actually tell you where to hit me. I'll tell you where to hit me. Challenge my data. Tomorrow, I'm going to drop several dozen Zhai that I misread as Nai-Z. I will be at a low point. If you want to swing on me, man, I am telling you when to swing. That's me at my weakest. That's what I need to be the most solid. It's what I'm banking everything on. Everything you say is stupid unless you're actually attacking that. And I'm telling you, because I purify publicly, you've got a shot. Take a swing, motherfucker. Go ahead. But I'm so confident I'm so far ahead of you and that I need to actually do due diligence that's why I do it. If I actually was concerned that you had any chance of actually beating me, you or anyone Typology Town, anyone around the world, I wouldn't do it. But I will say, people know, that's me at my weakest. First of all, 2 things. The entire premise Podler is built on is based on the observations of that data. The entire confidence I have in what I'm doing is based on that. If you don't know that, you're stupid, and you're missing the point. So if you want to actually take me on, take on my data. Say that my telescope, microscope, human reading lens is getting the wrong answers. Say which ones. Dude, like, I actually have Richard Jenkins. He's a good actor. He's a Chinese. Thought he was an IZ. If you'd actually looked over my samples, and I'm going to tell you my dar you, motherfucker, because you're so weak. That's how little I think of you. If you'd actually called out Richard Jenkins, that he was a Chinese, not an IZ, before I had discovered my own error, that would have been the hardest hit you could have done to me. And it still would not have stopped me. I'm too good. I'm too far ahead of you. But that is how you go about it. If you don't know that, We've been doing this for years now. And do you know why? The data. It's hard a lot. I keep going. You know why? The data. These people, they've been through some shit. They stayed. You know why? The data. That's why we're all here, and you don't address that. So, one, if you don't address that, I think you're weak. And if you would actually take us on, that's what you fight, because that's what we believe is going to win the day. So, I'm curious if you can find the errors. I'd like you to make it more interesting. I could go revisit my work with more energy. Be fun to take it on. But I doubt you will, because you have to show that you don't know what you're doing. And, well, you know what? Maybe you're that blind to the fact that you don't know what you're doing. I'm curious. Here's a little test form. What do you think my mojo is? What do you think Mitchell's is? What do you think Ben's is? Just the team here, Ademus, Jylene, like the what do you think our mojos are? I'm curious.
He says what you think your mojo is later on.
Oh my goodness.
It's embarrassing. I won't even tell you.
How about we just like watch the rest of the video and then give our final thoughts or something?
Training education did not actually make you intelligent. Again, a lot of the most big breakthroughs actually come from some people who are outside the system.
It's just an appeal to authority, really. I mean, it's just.
I am a completely different case than Jung because I got the right answers. I came up with the samples, which he never did, to prove that I got the right answers. I was able to step outside the confines of traditional cultural expectations, which he was not with his marriage and so forth. My data samples actually come from a wide range of people and careers. His came mainly from sick people. So you're right. We are two very different animals. No. So first of all, we don't want them to be anything. If I actually had some Genii coming in right now, some Johnny, man, I would be loving that stuff. Nai-Z, no, I don't want them to be Nai-G. I'm actually adjusting my strategy and tactics based on the observable fact that most of the dudes coming in happen to be Nai-G right now. So I could easily build my little, Lego set collection of mojos. If more, I'm gonna have to go get an IG built up and then use that team to go find those other ones because they're not coming in. So if they were coming in their own volition, my job would be way easier. So no, just each time someone comes in for a read request, I'm hoping it's gonna be some Nai-Z dude.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
We want
I want that so much. It just hasn't been the case.
Every once in a while we get Nijai and some, but
yeah.
But
I mean, we actually would like something other than that. It's mainly Nai-G dudes, Nijai females, and then also some Nijai dudes and Zaini dudes. Basically about 4 gender mojos we get most of the time. It would make our job of spreading the message and so forth easier if we actually had it the other way. So no, it doesn't play to our favor.
I've got a few Zaini females as well. We had a few.
A few, but not a lot.
No, but not a lot of Zaini males either.
Yeah. I actually believe this might be a Zaini. Very interesting.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I thought I saw Mouth Energy, actually, and that kind of surprised me. I was like, I assumed he was kind of IG, but no, I guess not.
Yeah. I've seen so many side up Nai-G, I just kind of like,
Davis knows kind of fit with this guy's lack of logic.
And he does. He has, but for a Zaini, he has a kind of assertive, like pretty G, like decent use of a G.
Yeah.
His whole thing here was like he was coming to the defense of the community.
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, For the same reason that when 10,000 scientists are all working on the same equation that Einstein's theory was connected to in lots of different ways, none of them got it right, though. So he gets the credit, and he calls it theory of relativity. Why? Do you know scientists thought that the term theory of relativity was too poetic sounding? That's actually very common. So I'm like, I don't think you actually understand actually how this works, and traditionally in history how it's interpreted and where you, sir, stand in your role in history. Right now you're the person looking at the truth and going, I don't understand it. Oh, that doesn't seem right. Well, that's because you're not up for the task yet, but hopefully that'll change in the future.
What?
Because the Enneagram is incorrect. In fact, the Enneagram and MBTI and Kersey don't even really technically overlap completely. If you try to overlap them all, there's errors because they're not quite correct, any of them, and the little variations just make them more incorrect and therefore incompatible.
Where's their data? What's there to follow?
What's there to follow? So no one is actually, just anytime you can point something out physically in the environment of nature that no one else has done before, you can call it what you want. Typology has talked about stuff, but it never actually observed them. And that's why they actually defined it wrong. Subjective, objective is the main dichotomy. Again, how can we be doing nothing different when I'm saying the foundational principle of psychological types is wrong? Momentum, modulation, energy gaining, and curbing is based on directive adaptive. Anything else is an incorrect answer. There's no gray area in that one.
I knew you would find. I knew you'd get a kick. That's why I didn't want to spoil it.
Oh my god.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's been a long day. I appreciate that.
Oh my god.
Oh, my.
Everyone wants to come up with their own little theory. And that sounds like Typology Town to me. Like, it really does. Like, everyone has their own theory inside of their head. They don't have a unification of opinions. They don't have any actual data. That to me seems unhealthy.
For sure. And they actually, in social alchemy, there's a multiple social alchemy relationships. They never count for all of them. They account for only portions of them, and then they overemphasize them. In the case of like Kersey, he actually mixed and matches his. Do you mean because like 2 of the sets are based on one social alchemy math grouping, and the other 2 sets are based on a totally different one? So how dumb is that? I'm sorry, I have to say it. He has 2 different sets in there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why didn't he realize that they're based on 2 different sets of math and have 2 different ones? He'd been cooler. He would have 2 different ways of grouping them. Because he does what? He does what? SJ,
SP, NT, and F.
Okay, so if he actually was to do NF, NT, SP, and then
SJ.
SJ.
Those are what he has.
Oh no, so no, but like do it like.
So he has bimojos,
No,
bimojos, cerebrals, and romantics.
Yes, he has cerebrals and romantics, but then SJs, those are actually centralists, I think.
No, SJs are bimojos.
SJ, okay, so he's doing bimojos and
Bimojos and bimojos, and then
he's
cerebrals and romantics.
romantics. So
He should be doing V, Vi, Ni, and Ni, or cerebrals, romantics, centralists, and practicals. He's not.
Boom. I'm surprised that didn't really stand out. Do you mean like because even besides what we're doing, I mean it's pretty obvious that there's 2 different ways that even in his own equations. Do you know what I mean? In the way he's equating them, they're actually different. I mean.
Yeah, that's
I'm curious. Did no one ever challenge that you have, for example, SJs and SPs? Why aren't there NJs and NPs?
He has some hand-waving explanation for this about how like rationals and bimojos are pragmatic, and SPs and NFs are something else, and SPs and rationals are something. Yeah.
As a scientist, fundamentally, he has to, I think, would have known that you're studying a phenomenon that's coming up from the birth of a creature, and then it's being grouped in the environment based on factors. And the groupings being used are external groupings. They're more like clubs. You know what I mean? Whereas the SJ and the SP, that's based on your main perception. Even himself, I mean, like that's what his definition is, right?
Yeah.
So like, why wouldn't you want to have the other half of that equation? Because to me, it seems more reasonable that it's going to be something biologically evolved that then finds ways it groups off in nature. If you try to study the groups, for example, if you try to study the groups, you might come up with mojos, which I think he did, like the Vi Alpha and the Xeni that are so prominent, you know what I mean, in journalism and politics and business and law and all kind of stuff like that. The powers that be stuff. It's too easy for I guess I think I can boil it down to this. Xi, Occam's razor here. Human qualia, to me, seems much more reasonable that it's going to come from biological evolution than sociological conditioning. That's it. Occam's razor, sociological conditioning would not account for something that is this prevalent. You know what I mean? So either Keirsey didn't really believe that innate human qualia was as innate as it is and it has evolved over time, or was confused on how the math worked because he's actually mixing, matching two. It still seems like he's bowing to like sociological guilds. I'm curious why he didn't recognize he's bowing to a sociological guild system.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would think that I don't even really know the evolution of Keirsey, like as far as like how like he was into the functions. Because I'm curious because it seems like he should know that from a human math point of view, he's grouped two groups by one math equation and use a different math equation for the other one. So I guess my question is, I'm wondering, did he know about that disconnect and thought it wasn't important? Or did he simply group from the outside of the world expectation, like he's four guilds, that made sense to people, and then figured that the underlying math would just fall into line? I'm curious, you see this a lot in scientific experiments where experiments go on wrong for long periods of time. I think it's because they're looking for something that's not actually going to come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are most Keirsey people now? I guess the question is, did Keirsey? How much into like functions did he get?
I don't think very much.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then basically his error is he did not realize that the way he grouped it, he grouped by two different functional maths.
Yeah. He didn't really get to the nuts and bolts of it, and of course, no evidence.
I'm curious, why is that? Does this person actually see that there is an issue between Keirsey having a different name, or does he not see an issue for Keirsey having a different name? Because I give Keirsey his credit; he did fuck up in a different way. So
He probably doesn't like Keirsey, actually, but he's equating us to Keirsey as like we're doing the same thing. No, we get into powers. We get into
But I'll actually have to correct him on just the principle of the Keirsey thing. So if Keirsey, even if it's a negative, because Keirsey is a messed up system. I'm not disputing that. However, it is different in the way it went about grouping things to a degree that I actually think makes it a different theoretical approach. So if you come at a different approach, you should be able to use its own name because it's approaching it different. It came from a much more occupational, I think, kind of thrust. Whereas, you know what I mean, MBTI and Jungian stuff comes much more like a cognitive function thrust.
Yeah.
So right there, they're coming at an equation from two different thrusts. So you have to name them differently because how would you distinguish which one you prefer? Do you mean? I mean, according to him, does that make everyone who's studying human qualia Jungians? What about all the people studying qualia before him? What about all the people who are, like I am, correcting that work? So correcting someone's work does not mean that you're actually doing the same work. I don't understand how he's not noticing that. So I'm really curious if this person ever actually will address the logical error he made that we can be the same when our basic premise and their basic premise would be incompatible. You could not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, Xi, very interesting. By the way, okay, I'm sorry.
There's a lot of like very illogical Xi in typology now.
So this is a Xi with horrible logic who thinks he's a Xi, and that I'm a Xi who's not being a Xi well. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to enjoy the deliciousness of that for a little bit.
And if you want, Coach, if you want to confirm his read, he does have some more videos if you want to look at like one more.
Yeah, I
just
would.
like really quick. Let's finish the video first.
The one guy, like he can't even say his name. Like I don't even know like who like one of like the, one of the core members
name is, right?
Yeah.
So he's saying like he's not sure if you're a Xi, but he thinks you're a Xi doing.
Okay.
Likely.
All right, right then. You're going to actually try and say what I am, and you didn't actually. Am I wrong that he's sort of inferring that he's making this read by hearsay? Like he's heard about the way I conduct myself, and from that, that's what he's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so right there I think you're a fool, because if you're going to actually dispute what I say I am, then you should be disputing my accused. But you're going to actually say, you heard about my way I conduct myself, and that general way is how you get this. Okay, no. And by the way, my general way is quite Naiji. No, it's not. Actually, people invent stuff just to invent stuff. Actually, Nijez commit that crime probably more than any other mojo.
Yeah, Xi not at all. I don't really. You don't see that.
They tend to do a lot of sophistry. They like to string together words that are more eloquent and precise and educated, but established.
Yeah, because they had a higher vi.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at like the music industry and comedy and acting and spirituality and scientific and mathematical breakthroughs, Naiji like to make up new words, and Nijai do too. So yeah, he's off there. Well, that's okay, because
that's okay. We actually are okay with you not having interest.
Yeah.
And now you're going to appeal to all these people who are just people who jump to conclusions, and they were not going to have interest too. Great.
I think the problem that we actually have is the video that you are making in response to us when you yourself have not done the proper canvassing and investigation.
And he got himself wrong. I'm sorry. Just, the fact his nose is amazing, but him getting his mojo wrong makes my job a lot easier. And before this person thinks like, oh, that's probably why he read me this way. Nope. Those who know me know I will tell the read even when it's uncomfortable. Even when I have to give someone like a mojo that I was like, oh, I want that to be something else. But what I want isn't the case. Also, I've had things where I'm like, that's the answer, that's the answer. And I'm like, shit, I'm wrong. And I correct myself. So I'm going to tell you whatever I think you actually are. And I believe you to be a Xi. I thought when you first came out, I wasn't sure if you were a Xi who was throwing some serious impassioned logician. That's what you're doing here, although it's kind of like impassioned lack of logician.
Impassioned failed logician.
Well, he has this internal logic, but it's like it's just nothing.
Yeah, he's got way too much vibe as far as like what things should be, but that makes sense.
I was gonna say I think that he thinks the maturity is basically going along with whatever everyone else is saying or doing. That seems to be his overall stance here in response to us. Oh, you're crazy, and he states all these like arguments that have just been rehashed from other typologists to make his case rather than actually doing the investigation. So
this person, I appreciate your effort, and I hope that it actually engaged you to be more of a seeker and keep actually trying to figure out what's going on, and maybe you'll learn something. But as things are right now, everything you said are things that have no meaning and make me feel much stronger. They make my team, what we're doing, the work we're doing, it just seems stronger in that you were unable to address it. So I hope that's what you were trying to spend your 4 minutes on, because we really didn't have anything to talk about today, and this actually was a really nice lift. This is quite fun. So your 4 minutes did nothing for your case, and it actually gave us quite a lift and allowed us to kind of sound off on why we're so strong without it being like we're so strong for no reason. We were countering what you were saying, and so we had to just brag a little bit. So thank you.
Giving us an opportunity.
Exactly. Thank you for this, appropriate boasting opportunity.
Thank you, haters. Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
Probably the same way that you think that you're a Xeni when you're not.
Where's your evidence? Or he just said reads are wrong. He just says they're wrong. That's all he says. You're the wrong. I've seen them agree in this type. You don't even have an argument for that. Not even an argument.
Okay, exactly. Okay, right there. Thank you, Mitchell. I'm glad you mentioned that. You have to understand that whether or not Podlayer is correct or not, it is going for an evidence-based way of proving that. You're coming from a model that doesn't do that. You have to acknowledge this. So to make the statement that anyone has provably, grievously misread someone from your position is foolish and untenable because you don't have any false, as I was saying, you have no falsifiability. Now we do. Now you can disagree with whether or not that's there, but your model doesn't even attempt to have falsifiability. There's no instrument mechanism for falsifiability. So why are your reads right and another MBTI person who's different wrong? Why yours right and Kersey's wrong? Why yours right and mine wrong? Why yours right and Socionics wrong? Why yours right and anyone else is wrong? I mean, it's like, what are you basing that on? Now, you can disagree with our data, but if you ask us, why are you saying that these people misread themselves? My data. This data is why I'm doing that, and the experiments. Since we can actually have cohesion of accuracy levels higher than anyone else has been proven to do, that makes us feel appropriately that our methodology must be better at getting it because we have more cohesion of opinion. And so it's amazing to me that they don't actually, maybe it is they're feeling their lack and so they try to like lash out when someone points out, you realize your model doesn't really have any data. I don't, like, I would respect them, that just, they would still get crushed because they don't have data. But I mentioned before, I've debated a lot of people in my life, and there's just stronger ways of coming about it. If a person came out from the position of, now I know typology has its flaws, such as this, this, and this, but it's strong like this, such that, that's way better. The fact that he did not immediately mention, okay, I'm going to compare typology to Podlayer, but I'm going to state ahead of time that typology itself is a shaky model. Anyone who's a truth seeker should actually start the conversation from that foot.
Yes.
I'm going to compare typology, a shaky methodology, with another new shaky methodology according to you. So the fact that that was not introduced into evidence shows that you either didn't know that, which means you're stupid, or you kept that, which means you're disingenuous. I'm sorry, were you saying something, Mitchell?
No.
Do we want to watch
I got one thing. Do you want to see another video?
Yeah,
Just briefly. I got one up. Here, I'll put it.
And one where he's not like as pumped up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's sitting back and he's talking about. Actually, he's still talking about visual reading in a way, but like the way MBTIers do it, not us necessarily.
Hey, Charlie. Done here.
Awesome.
Short version is this dude was defending that Nisai thought she was an IG. He's
Yes.
not pushing back on typology being bad, so we're kind of like listening to the video. We already did that, but now we're just confirming his read. He believes himself to be a Xeni. I'm pretty sure he's a Xeni, maybe a Zide of an IG.
Yeah.
So we're now reading him. The other video obviously was more impassioned.
You'll see some gesturing here too,
Perfect.
a little bit.
He has those long, thin joints, I do notice, as he was like sitting down and stuff, and even right now.
And I see a lot of mouth energy.
Yeah, a lot of mouth energy, and the cheeks don't move. You see, it's almost like shale, like they cut like there.
Yeah.
And I hear the heavy tower tunnel.
Yeah, was that a Nidrift or a Vi check?
There we go, Spider! I saw it! I saw the Spider! You are Xeni, sir!
I think I'm also seeing Unifield in his face, too.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem really Bifield or Perceptionly either.
Cool. Okay, so...
Well, he got Sinez.
There you go. There you go. You have a strong connection to their other maybe. Or maybe you're just deeply, deeply confused. All right. So, again, I'm always willing to relook at a case as I learn more about things, but from the data we have right now, the methodology we have right now, which is far beyond anyone else, our read is Xine and more spider fingers. So, yeah, that was a good session. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
So thank you. Because we were like, what are we going to talk about? And Ben's like, I don't know. You know, some weird thing happened. And we're like,
oh, best thing we got, and it was a lot of fun as it turned out.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, but he's getting worked up a bit here, even when he makes points, and you know, he has good articulation. But the cheeks don't move.
Yeah, I'm really not seeing any emotion cheeks at all.
All his lines and his subjective refrainment, he's so subjective.
Yeah, maybe he just thinks he's forceful because people register because he's a Xine. Maybe he's just kind of hardcore, and people register that. And in Typology Town, where it's mostly Najez, they're like, "Ooh, you're really tough."
Yeah, I think
you're really rough.
He has a lot of good articulation, so I think that's probably why, and also Vi as well. So he's got strong directive logic development. But he also does look like his momentum is not quite what it could be, which makes sense. His dancing eyes look a little, you know, subdued.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, his Xi logic was just. How many basic Xi weighings did he fail throughout? We're talking. I mean, like, there's so many.
Almost everyone.
Almost everyone. That's what Xi does. That's his strength, but not in this case. You'll have to work on that.
Yeah.
So we'll have to tell Demas about this. That'd be funny. Oh, by the way, he doesn't know what I am.
I told the Demas on Facebook.
What I am, but he thinks I may be a Xine from you know, his general take on me.
And he needs to learn more about Pavlov methodology. It'll help him out tremendously.
And he needs to learn that true logic will make you shudder. He's a little too comfortable. Demas talked about this. This is a slovenly logic. He's got lazy logic, very lazy logic, very self-satisfied logic. He'll have to grow past that.
Yeah, real logic kind of it's like uncomfortable sometimes.
So I'll leave it with this guy on this. He says we're similar. If he was pushed back at all, I'm really curious on these three things. How his logic addresses these. Number one, the foundation of Jungian typology and most typologies is the introversion to extroversion is basically the basic dichotomy where energy either comes from natively or is curved from natively. And it's not. It is the directive adaptive dichotomy. That is the one that does that. So that's a fundamental premise difference. How do you address that? Second is the methodology. The methodology is visual observation. So that is a different way of coming about it. And then third is the creation of the lists. I'm curious what he thinks of the lists that we've created so far and why typology has not done it as well. For example, he seemed like he could just read me off the cuff. Okay, then why haven't you read all the people we've read? If you can read people like that and you feel so confident, then why haven't you read more? Why haven't other typology people done that? And why can't they agree in these lists? Fourth one, this last one, what about our cohesion of opinion experiments? They are above what would be expected from random guessing. And no one else is doing this, and those who even try to do it have failed. So those four things are on their face. They are different. They're fundamentally different. So I'm curious how this person will either correct what they've said or just use sophistry to glaze over the fact that you cannot call models the same or even similar when they have those four fundamental differences. They're not even like over here and over here. We're actually saying that the answers are different answers. So I'm curious if that will be even addressed at all. Most likely not, but if it is, who knows? He perhaps may actually eventually get somewhere.
Yeah, that would actually be great. Like if he actually looked at our data and actually investigated, like that would make us very happy because that would show that he's actually learning and not just.
Yeah, for example, this person, you're welcome for your own perusal if you want to, is to download from our Dropbox our collage of Xine mails. We currently have like 700, I think, and our collage of Xine emails. I think you'll see if you really look at the data, one, those two things are distinct. There is a Xine way, there's a Xine way. Number two, they're different from each other. Number three, you are Xine. Okay, so go find out what a Xine and a Xine males look like, see how they're different, and see which one you are. It's Xine. Very strong. Tower tunnel, buddy. Tower tunnel.
Yes.
Alrighty, well, I guess we'll leave it on that, but that was a good session. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, he's
that's
more
all
calming
fun.
in this video. You could really see
Yeah.
that more.
Yeah, he's more comfortable here.
Yep.
The impassioned mode was putting him a little bit out. And the confrontational, it was putting him a little out of sorts.
Yeah. All right.
It's interesting. So Ziny came to the Ziny who thought he was a Zenai came to the defense of a Nizai who thought she was a Naiji against people who actually knew what she was, but that made him upset. I hope someday that he'll actually realize what actually is going on. He'll tell us as a tale like, oh, that was funny back in the day.
Yeah, and they can laugh about it because like he'll be a higher person then.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people who are in this position don't realize that like they don't realize how much potential they really have here. You know, I mean, so.
I'm curious when we start bringing in more people, we get more into the field work, you know what I mean, how they're going to address that. If it'll just be seen as more like, oh, you're just swaying people with, you know what I mean, crazy words and sophistry, or if they'll realize what's going on. Then also, like, as the percentages in our weekly quiz score go up, what is
Which
their...
they already are.
Exactly, I'm saying. So, like, what is their explanation for that? Because they never put one out. I'm actually curious. I mean, that's the main thing we're contending on, and yet we had these back and forths. They just don't even address the fact that we're doing it. Like, I mean, again, I would still be able to handle it because I believe our data is so strong, but a proper opponent would be like, no, your percentages aren't that high because of this or that, or blah, blah. Like, they would actually attack the assertion we're making. They are attacking other things that were not, they're really like, they're not
Completely irrelevant, yeah.
relevant. So, I guess he must like wasting his effort because we actually got tonight to show off our powers. We showed off our logic. We showed off that we could read his mojo for a few minutes. You know what I mean? And so for us, it was worthwhile. For himself, I'm curious why he felt it was worthwhile because he doesn't have the abilities to sway us or move us in any way. So maybe it made him feel better. Who knows? Maybe it makes his friend feel better. But then, of course, we're going to talk about him in the same way, so nothing really changed there except we're now talking about both of them. And I didn't want to talk about either one. It just came up. So we'll see if this goes away. But one nice thing, if any weeks where we actually don't have anything particular to talk about, this can always, if they're still going on being goofy, we're like, hey, we can check it on them. You know, kind of like, you know what I mean? At the Colbert Report, like every so often you check in to see what's going on in that goofy land.
Yeah, we'll always have something on our agenda then. It's pretty cool.
For sure.
All right, well, it's been a great session, guys.
Sorry. We don't love authority. Spider hands, spider hands, spider hands. All right. Good night, Ziny, and I wish you luck on your journey. All right. Naiji Dragons, we did good.
All right.
Next
It was
time.
good night. Have a great evening.